demon must shake and tremble. Satan is a old dirty thief, so we mash up your plans with only one sprinkle. If you're feeling pain, the blood of Jesus break every chain and remove our stain. Declare this again and again. The blood of Jesus over your family. Plead the blood over your family. This is what to pray and say in the morning. The blood of Jesus over your family. Plead the blood over your family. This is what to pray and say in the morning. When the Vicks and the bush can't fix this, the blood of Jesus remove all sickness, all asthma and all arthritis. In the name of Jesus we bind it. Jesus is the answer. The blood of Jesus beat out the cancer. Break every chain and remove all stain. Declare this again and again. The blood of Jesus over your family. Plead the blood over your family. This is what to pray and say in the morning. The blood of Jesus over your family. Plead the blood over your family. This is what to pray and say in the morning. When we plead the blood, principalities get trampled. When we plead the blood, generation curse get dismantled. So cover your children and them, your unsafe family members and them. Christ died on the cross for all of them, so start praying for them. The blood of Jesus over your family. Plead the blood over your family. This is what to pray and say in the morning. The blood of Jesus over your family. Plead the blood over your family. This is what to pray and say in the morning.
And a blessed good afternoon to one and all those of you locked on to 103.1 FM. This is Team Family. It's another beautiful Sunday afternoon, and we welcome you one and all. I am your host, Linnell, and Adonna is here as well. We are your hosts for today. So how are we doing today, Adonna?
Very well.
All righty. It's a blessed day in the Lord. We are always happy and glad, to be in the land of the living and to be with you to discuss, some family issues. Remember what Team Family is about. It's all about bringing the family together, discussing all different types of issues and situations that help bring family together. We're all about family. And today is no different. Today is no different. We have a new topic for this afternoon. All right, and we have a special guest who is with us today. And before we bring our guests in, I just want to say, I just want to bless the Lord for his goodness towards me. Sometimes, we wait until the big things happen and we have to wait for, the grand thing to happen to give a testimony. But today I just want to bless God, for his mercies, for his goodness, for providing for me, for taking care of me and my family. I want to thank God, for the things that we take for granted. The fact that I can speak. All right, I'm not dumb, I'm not deaf. We take these things for granted. But I just want to bless God today that he has given me life and for these simple things that we take for granted every day. God is really a good God. Blessings, blessings, blessings. So blessings to all of you out there listening, whether it be on YouTube or whether it be on Facebook, wherever you are listening to Team Family, welcome. We're going to have a good discussion this afternoon.
Yes, we will.
Blessings to all of you.
Yep.
Amen. All right, so I want to bring on a special guest for today, a very good friend of mine. She's the CEO, Chief Executive Officer of SP's International Trading. So I would like to welcome my dear friend, Salisha Paul. Miss Salisha Paul, good afternoon, my dear.
Good afternoon, Manel. Since the title works, that is good.
Alrighty.
Yes.
Alrighty. Well, you're looking pretty fine. You're looking very nice.
You
All
said it's a
right.
wonderful Sunday, so.
All right. All
Hey,
right.
Donna.
Hi, how
All
are you?
right. It's so wonderful to have you here with us this afternoon on Team Family. This program, is all about bringing family together. It's all about, doing all that we can to ensure that family stays together. All right. And we know SPs International, it's from the top, you're the CEO. Your dad, God rest his soul, he was once the at the top, and now you have taken over. We want you to tell us a little bit about, you know, um, yourself and about what it is like, running a company like SPs. Just
And
a
how
little
long is this show? Oh, thank you first of all for having me.
bit. All right.
It's 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 an honor. So first, I want to thank God for this opportunity.
Amen.
Basically, to share because by no means I'm no expert. Um, I tell everyone who speaks, would listen, I'm a student. So every day I get to work or I wake up for that matter, I
All
am all
right.
about learning. So
Okay.
the journey has definitely been one where I've learned and I continue to learn a lot.
All
As
right.
you indicated, it is a family business and funny, not many persons when they hear SPs, they think of family business.
All
But
right.
we just trade, just like any other business. And it was interesting when you did invite me to do the program. I thought, you asked about it, but truthfully, I never once really thought of our company much as a family business
Okay.
because that notion is not really a big notion in Grenada. People just start a business and it's their business and you see members of their family work or whatever.
All right.
But it is indeed a blessing um, to be part of a family business.
All right.
My journey with SPs, um,
Before you continue, I want to hear, when you first, because I don't think you were always a part of SPs. So tell us, maybe when you first started and what made you decide to work with your family, that business.
some decisions are made for you
All
and
right.
some decisions you make,
All right.
especially in the family business dynamic.
All
So
right.
I started off, of course, to my alma mater. I went to St. Joseph's Convent and then I went on to TAMCC. And my first love is business construction and business building technology.
Okay.
So when I left school, my mind was geared towards doing a career in interior design or something in building technology, being an architect or an engineer, something of that sort.
Okay.
So I went on to Camp CC and, let me talk colloquial language. I didn't go top. I stayed at bottom.
All
And I was,
right.
cutting wood and digging trenches and all of that stuff I did. Um, Time at Camp CC, of course, 2 years. And then I did a odds and end jobs. I worked with a company at the time they called CAS, Construction Advisory Services, and I did quantity surveying. I did a short stint with architectural firm, and then I got the opportunity to teach at St. Joseph's Convent. And
Mm-hmm.
of course, I did not teach business, principles of business, neither did I teach principles of accounts, but I taught technical drawing.
All right.
And I also taught art because I love art. It becomes very natural to me. So yeah, that's how my life outside of SP started. Mind you, while I was doing all of those things, even at MCC, I had my job at
Okay.
SPC. So whenever I leave school, whether it was 3 or 4 or 5 in the afternoon, I would pick up shifts because back then our opening hours were up to 8 p.m.
Uh-huh.
So I would leave school, I would leave whatever job, and I would go to Springs and work up until 8 p.m.
Okay.
So
So that was like a little extra.
technically,
Okay.
yeah, technically I was kind of always working with
Okay.
SPs,
All
always,
right.
always involved, yeah.
All right. So you had a little initiation in and between, right? While you're working out there, you were working with the family.
Yeah.
All right.
And then the time came where I wanted to pursue a bachelor's degree. Um, and I searched schools far and wide, and I was bent on doing interior design or architecture. In fact, I
Okay.
got accepted to one of the top schools in New York, Pratt Institute, to do interior design.
Okay.
And I kid you not, I know not what happened up until this very day. And I just have to say, it's God's will
God
that
had another plan.
He had other plans. I just, I
Yeah.
don't know when, I can't tell you when. I truthfully cannot tell you when I applied to Florida International University to do business, but I did. I guess maybe in the whole thing I did. Mind you, in all of that, my father was always in the background reminding me that what he was doing was for the family.
All
So
right.
while I had my own goals to do building technology or interior design, whenever we had those little talks, he would remind me what he's doing is for the family.
All right. Okay.
And me being his firstborn,
Mhm.
that left,
You
no,
feel
The
the pressure.
mantle, the mantle is
I
on you.
The mantle
exactly
was
so.
there.
So I applied to Florida International University, and within a week, they responded, they accepted me, and they offered me an amazing scholarship.
Okay.
And in a matter of months, I was off to Florida to do my bachelor's in business
All right.
administration. So yeah, that's how it started.
All right. Okay. So you had a little extra training there. So it's not just about, just into the business and just you're thrown into everything and you don't have that training, but you have training in business. That's wonderful because sometimes people get thrown into or people start the family business, or they are part of a family and they're told, okay, this is what you're going to be doing, but they don't have that experience. They don't, not necessarily experience, they don't have that training in that
Right.
area. And that can cause a lot of problems down the road, because sometimes an employee that's currently working there might be more qualified. You might find, okay, well, this person just, although it's a family business, but somebody might say, well, she ain't even qualified, and she, but you're well
Correct.
qualified. That's good. That's
Yeah,
good.
I
Correct.
think it's commendable that you put aside your own dreams too and focus on the family as a priority.
Well,
I think that's
but
very
you
commendable.
know, when I am probably fast tracking things, when my dad died in 2017, um, we had a coach, a business coach, and he said to me, Felicia, you don't need to worry. You were being prepared for this from the very get-go.
Okay.
He said, you need to read the story of Joseph and appreciate the Joseph experience and the Joseph journey. And mind you, I was in mourning, I was grieving. So at the time, him telling me that, I really didn't
It makes
accept it,
sense. Yeah.
you know. But as time went on, and I did study the story of Joseph, and it was indeed um, my father did prepare me for the position that I hold now, and not so much the position, but what I do now, and
Okay.
carrying the business forward. Because one of the things that we see happening with family businesses, not just locally here in Grenada or in the Caribbean, in the whole world, what has happened is that many family businesses do not make it past the second generation. We
Okay.
have a challenge with succession planning. We find that people start businesses for various reasons, which we can discuss, and past their children or even just with them, it dies or it fails. So kudos to my dad for
Uh,
having a vision and having me walk through every department, every you put it this way, every critical department a business has, he would have walked me through it.
all
Um,
right.
not always pretty experiences walking through them, but I definitely been through marketing. I don't know how many of you remember Price of the Carnage.
Yeah. Oh,
Hmm.
yes, I remember
Yes,
that.
yes.
I tasted it, but I had to do it.
All right.
I had to do days on the sales van, going around the island, eating 4 o'clock in the afternoon because you're on the hustle and you don't want to miss a sales. You only eat on your way back in.
Right.
Um, when it comes to warehousing. And so he walked me through. In fact, I worked in every critical area of the business for some
Okay.
time prior to his death.
Wow,
So
that's
when it
awesome.
came to taking on the responsibility, I had a very good understanding. Apart from the theoretical, which I had, and getting the degree, I had the practical experience of being in every critical department
That's
of the
awesome.
business.
That's awesome.
So I the Joseph
You
experience,
right.
indeed,
Basically
indeed.
know what's happening there. And I think when a manager understands what's going on in the department itself, it becomes a little bit, well, I shouldn't say easier, but you have insight on what's going on there. So you can plan better, you can understand what's going on there better. So things are a little bit better on your side.
Yeah.
Yes. Um, you said that there are basically a lot of things that happen with family businesses. I don't know if you can share with us maybe some of the statistics as it relates to family businesses, because I look at Grenada and I'm looking not even, maybe not so much at the big businesses, because I'm not too sure. I can name so many businesses that are family businesses, but I look at, the lane man on the street, and you look at a lot of people starting up businesses, and do family businesses really work? Share with us some statistics. I just want to, you know.
It is a mix of statistics. Let me start by saying family businesses or put it family owned small and medium sized enterprises, whether it's in the Caribbean or internationally, they contribute significantly to any country's GDP. They're over, if you want to talk figuratively, you have over, let's say in the US, you have over 5 million family owned businesses.
Oh, okay.
Locally, or maybe I should say in the region, you have family-owned businesses accounting for over 70% of small and medium-sized enterprises. So
Hmm,
Okay, that's
family
good.
interesting.
businesses do exist.
Oh,
Um, the challenge with family business, or the negative side of the statistics, is that, as I indicated earlier, is that they have a challenge in continuing past the starting generation.
oh
So in the
yes.
case of my dad, had he not groomed me or put things in place, or what you would call put a succession plan in place, the business would have died when he died.
True.
And that is what happens with many family owned businesses, sadly. Um,
Yes. Yes. Yes.
sadly. So
Much
that,
yeah.
it, of course, there are tons of ways we can get over that hurdle. And it's primarily to do with succession planning. When you start the business, what is the vision? And who is going to be there to carry the vision through? Because if the business does not have a vision that is strong enough, or the why in starting the business is not that important, then you have challenges in getting that why passed on to somebody else, and
Okay.
somebody else executing uh,
Right.
on that vision. So that
Right.
is, and again, sadly, it's not just a local statistic, it is the world all over. This is what happens. And it goes back again to why small businesses or family owned businesses start up in the first place. You
Okay.
have the issue of, I mean, if you have the typical family owned business in Grenada, or somebody you know that has a business and it stays in their family, why they started in business in the first place, they would tell you, well, I don't want to work for nobody again, or
Okay.
um, I want to work for my own money,
All right.
or I want to create something for my family to call our own. And
Okay.
then you realize the why is already changing. And that why now takes on to a vision and something that can go on from generation to generation. So the
Okay.
why is very important as to why you have that small business and whether it would succeed or not. Of course, there are other factors, but the why plays a big role in success in the business being successful and passing on from generation to generation.
Just to interrupt you just for a minute, I think that is so important because sometimes, the let's say the daddy or the person who
Mhm.
started the business had something that was central to the business. This is why they really started it, and this is what they want to keep. This is the reason why they want to keep this business going, whatever reason it be. And somewhere along the generations, it was not passed on, and somebody, did not understand the why, why it was this business first started, or, the important, the morals, the things that mean a lot, you know, whatever it was, the reason, whether it was because you wanted to, to serve the people in the community, whether it was because, there were people in the community, let's say the older persons that needed some kind of service, or whatever the reason why, somewhere along the line, somebody may have not passed on that message in whatever way you need to pass it on. And somewhere along the generation, everything, the business changes, the vision changes. And, if I should say, sometimes you say that your grandfather, your grandmother probably turning in the grave in local terms because, because the
Carry it
business has
on.
changed so much
Yeah.
that, they would not be pleased. Um, it's not that they are there to see what's happening, but you would love for, your grandmother, your grandfather, whoever it is that first started this business, you would love for them to be proud of what you're doing with the business
And how we take care of
currently
it.
and how you're
Yes,
taking care of it or whatever you're doing with it, you
you
know?
know, you brought across an important point because oftentimes when I get to office and my staff will hear me say, and I was like, sometimes I say, would this be what daddy wants? And I would start talking and say, like, okay, so should we be talking to the dead? But I understand that point all too well because one of the things that he did, and I would, if I can encourage anybody who is interested in starting a family business or who already has a family business, one critical thing to do is to start putting pen to paper. Now,
Okay.
if you are starting, of course, you would develop a business plan. And when people talk about business plan, some people get a little scared. Oh, I don't have the brains or whatever. But it's not, it doesn't have to be so sophisticated or anything too challenging. And you don't have to be the sharpest person to do it. It's just a matter of what you want to do or what your family wants to do, how y'all want to do it, who y'all want to do it for, and what y'all hope to achieve in the end. And then you
Okay.
put some time frames to it, put some figures to it, and it's that simple. And so one of the things my dad took the time to do is that he basically documented the vision for the company. Um, he documented the vision, he documented the mission, he documented what areas he wanted developed. I mean, luckily also I was part of that process where we documented a lot of things. But sometimes you would hear it, and sometimes people put it as a cliche that if you do not write the vision, and we can even go to
Please,
scripture.
that's the word of God, That's
Maybe
the word
we,
of
let
God,
us say
right?
we can go
Write
to
the
scripture.
vision
If
down.
you do not write it, um,
Yes.
it disappears. It doesn't register. You
Yes. You
have
need to
nothing to hold yourself accountable to.
write.
Um, and even just this past week, I was sharing with my team, and I said 2022 is approaching, and even if you have personal goals, it's time to start writing it down. Writing down is I can't overemphasize the importance
Very
of
important.
writing it down,
Very.
and then it becomes clear to you too as a business owner or the family member, what it
That's
is
right.
that we are doing, what is it that we hope to do, who
That's
we hope to
right.
sell to, who we hope to serve, how we hope to serve them.
Right.
And
That's
you write all of that, and then that information can be placed into a simple document
Right.
that can be passed on from one generation to the other generation.
No, this is so important. And what you're saying there is just bringing up light bulbs in my head because there are times when you want to do something, but you don't know exactly how to say it. But when you begin to put pen to paper and you write it down, then you start to say, okay, that is what I really want. So you basically put details to what is really going on in your head. But if it just stays in your head, you
Yeah.
know,
Or you share it with anybody else.
how would you share it?
Yeah, and you can
Yeah.
forget it as well.
You can forget.
Yeah.
You
And
need to
then
put
you
the
see
details down.
time go by and somebody else executes on it. You say, oh, I wanted to do
That
that. That was
is
my business
right.
idea. Oh, well,
Yes.
you didn't, you didn't write it
Right.
down. You didn't start executing on it.
Right.
So
Right.
somebody else got onto it.
True. True. So important to write it down.
Hmm.
Hmm.
I have another question. Oh,
Sure.
sorry. Go ahead. Go ahead. I don't want to.
No, we were talking about writing it down, and one of the things I would also say, this one would cost, but not too much. Um, Seek legal advice,
All right.
um, especially if you're about to start it, um, because there's some intricacies in doing business that you can't run away from that is purely legal,
Right. Right.
and you don't want to get well, a year, 2 years in, and then you just realize, oh, this is how the tax system works. Oh, this is how the legal area works.
Right.
So
Right.
you want to be able to, just pay a lawyer consultation fee. And I mean, most lawyers in Grenada, the consultation fee, what, between $100 to $200, 300 in some cases. So that's one of your
Some
first investments.
some
And
of
you
them
can even
would
get it
just do it
free.
for free. Some of them would do it for
Exactly.
free, especially if they realize it's a little man on the street, somebody that's just trying to make
Right.
a dollar. Some of them would, yeah.
And you have that consultation and let them guide you onto the legal framework for your business, the tax implications for your business. So you start everything off on the right foot. And of course, as Christians, we want to make sure we're law-abiding citizens,
Oh
so that
yes.
nowhere along the line that we broke any law, we, try to trick the tax system or anything like that. We
Right.
did it correct.
Right.
So that's one of the things I would also say. And if you can keep that lawyer close to you throughout your journey, that will also be an asset.
Okay. True. Don't you have a question?
No, yeah, go ahead.
All right. What I wanted to ask, and as you started speaking about that legal aspect of business, um, it came back to mind the same question of how do you now we're talking about family business. Let's say you have more than one family members, okay, two, three, four, could be five, how many, it doesn't matter. How do you maintain? I don't know if I'm jumping ahead a little too much here, but how do you maintain a business environment when it relates to your family members? All right, remember, it's your family. Yeah? Sometimes as a family, you tend to be a little laid back, or you might be a little friendly, or you might be a little disrespectful. Well, to your family, it might not seem disrespectful, but in the business environment, um, it will come off as being disrespectful. So how would you say you can maintain a business environment and with your
A
family
business,
members?
a business relationship.
A
Yeah.
business relationship, that's what I want to say, a business relationship, maintaining that and dealing with things like, how do you deal with things like, a family member might be a little disrespectful, or you know how would you deal with something like that? I don't know if you ever had to deal with that, but I'm just asking.
But you brought up interesting thing here, Lino. That's one of the dynamics of having a family business that you cannot get away from. And sometimes it becomes a little awkward, it becomes a little uncomfortable. But one of the things that instilled, and I mean, he instilled it, but this is local talk, plain manners. What is it? Plain talk, bad manners.
Bad manners, yeah.
You
Mm,
don't mix business and pleasure.
mm,
So in the same way, you don't mix family and business. Family discussions happen at the dinner tables. Family time, business discussions happen
And the
at work.
business. Hmm.
right.
Mind you, you can have excellent and productive family business meetings at the dinner table also, but you
Okay.
want to draw a line and keep it separated as much as possible. So when we are talking business, which has dollars and figures implications, which sometimes we try and shy away from because we don't want to seem like we are guided by money or money drives us. But at the
Okay.
end of the day, it's business and business involves money, making money, spending money. So you want to have frank conversation when it comes to business and you address business like. And when it's family, you separate it and you have the family discussions. I mean, I'm saying it that way, but it's not that simple.
Okay.
So for example, as I said, it was me, my dad, and sometimes, oh yeah, dad crossed the line all the time, and I would get pulled up.
All right.
Um, a lot of the times I got pulled up. In some instances, I did not like it or how it was done, but I got pulled up. And
Right.
at the end of the day, that mattered the most. That I got pulled up. We would have our private discussions thereafter, where I would say, "Okay, Dad, I didn't really like how you did that or how you said that to me." Um, we just want. But my advice would be to basically tread on the line of respect.
Okay.
Once we keep respect in the mix and how we speak to each other, I still have my younger brother who works in the business, and at the end of the day, I'm his older sister. He's my younger brother. But when
Right.
he comes to work, I can't treat him like my younger brother.
Okay.
He's now a co-worker, an employee, or a co-owner. I have to treat him in that way and speak to him in that way.
Right.
So I guess with titles, we now work with the position and the titles when it comes to work, and when we get home, we deal with family titles. That might be
Right.
a good way of separating or looking at things.
Yeah.
You,
I had
go
one
ahead.
question though. In terms of starting up a business, sometimes you have a family, they have a business, but they run it from home. This is still at a very small scale, but they want to take it to the next level. What are some of the things they will have to do in terms of getting to the level where they want to have it as a company, or sometimes they might be doing something that cut in the industry,
Okay.
yeah, or something like that, and they want to take it to the next level. What are some of the things they need to consider?
Okay, Linda Donna, I'm the novice, so I apologize. I really need to click on my life. So
I
give me
was
one
just about
second.
to, yes,
Give me one
you're looking a
second.
little dark there.
Yeah, put it on.
Yes. All right. So while we're waiting on Miss Paul, those of you listening out there, you are free to send in your questions. If you have any questions on how to start up a family business, you can text us on 403-1031. That's 403-1031. Or if you're listening on YouTube or Facebook, you can text us your questions. All right.
Adonna, thanks for that question. And it brings back memory of when we were at that stage. We, of course, were not always an entity that had 21 members of staff and how many branches and so forth. We were at a stage where we were just operating from our home downstairs, no storeroom, no nothing, and basically Daddy wanted to get to the next level. Um, and one thing that he did was, and sometimes we shy away from doing it in our culture, and we tend to say we don't want to get people in our business. And we tend to, and I sometimes say that's one of the mistakes or downfalls we have, that we tend to operate in our own bubble and we not speak to people. But one of the best advice I can give would be to speak to people, business people who you can trust, and get real experience how they went about it. Because sometimes how we went about it may not be applicable to somebody else's industry. So somebody might be into making bags, and or somebody might be in a product, I mean, sorry, in a service industry. So how we went about moving to the next level would be different from how they would need to. So I would say do the research and speak to someone who is already in your industry and get real time experience as to how they went about it. But there are some things that are central or common among all industries, and some things like after you would have spoken to the lawyer, of course,
Yeah.
you want to be able to now say, and again, I believe in pen and paper, as I said before. Now, what are the roles that you're going to pull different family members to do? Because sometimes what we do is that we just I have a family, 7, 12 persons, and I just giving everybody something to do. And that could be a mistake. What are the critical roles to be performed? Okay, you need enough somebody to handle the money, whether you want to call them an official accountant or the bookkeeper. Based on the industry, you need somebody to sell. In this day and age that we live in, you need somebody to handle the social media and the marketing and so forth. Um, you might be able to meet somebody to do all your clerical stuff. So you need somebody who has typing and so skills. Now, if none of those skills are in your family, then you have to consider hiring. Because sometimes the mistake again that is made is that what they say, well, how is it said locally? You use the family because that's what you have, and then 5 years down the road, you're still using that family member, although times have changed and you're now at a different level, but you can't get rid of that person because that's your
Okay.
cousin or your aunt person or whomever. And
Oh
so that
gosh.
also restricts the company because now you have somebody who's not skilled or cannot
Right.
deliver, but you're stuck with them, and
Right.
so you stick in the company. So you want to make sure you specify the role
All right.
of the post of whatever the business is, specify the roles and see who can best fit it in the family first. If you cannot find somebody in the family to fit that role, do consider hiring because you don't want to be stuck. No, I understand initially finances might be an issue, so you don't want to go hire somebody and then you can't pay and so forth. But whatever you do, make sure that you set timelines. So this year, this is what we're doing. Within the next 2 to 3 years, this is what we hope to do or hope to achieve. And you work from there. Goals,
You
make
have
sure they're
goals.
smart.
Mhm.
You set goals and you make sure they're smart. Um, and remember, not everybody that you start up the business with would be with you 5 years down the line,
True.
family or not.
Oh yeah.
They would not be with you. That's just a reality. They would not
Right.
be with you. And even if it's, let's say, a small knit family, um, three brothers or so, or two brothers and a cousin, one person may not be along the journey the next 5 years.
True.
So, how is that person going to leave when they felt that they would have invested so much, whether it's time or money? Make sure in the beginning that you have some idea of what we call an exit strategy or a exit plan.
Mhm.
If 5 years down the road, either one of you want to leave or no longer be part of Many Moons Enterprise,
Okay.
what would Troy, if Troy was in the beginning, what would Troy be able to leave with? Does he leave with anything at all? How would Troy be compensated? And that is an interesting part of the conversation, even in starting up and growing a business. How do we compensate the family members? Do we give them salaries or do we give them end of year, a percentage of the sales from the end of the year? Um, or we just leave everything for a
Incentives.
particular. These things need to be decided, especially because it's
Yes.
family. Because
Right.
then you have people feeling having expectations that were not communicated, and then you get a lot of friction and tension, all these
Right.
things. So communication that is clear,
Yes. Okay.
communication that is absolutely clear.
Yes.
and agreed to by all parties up front. Sometimes we go on the ambiguous part where, okay, we go just do a thing and
No, you have to be clear.
somewhere along the line, things say, don't worry, man, things go work out. You know how we talk. And then what happens? That person start to say, I find paying money to him, but I ain't hear nobody talking or saying anything, and I want my cut. And
Yeah.
these things
Oh,
happen, and they
oh
happen
yes.
almost regular. And
Reality.
so, when we're not clear up front about
True.
things like compensation and how who does what and how they do it and
True.
hours and all these things,
So true.
then tension builds up and friction, and you have the breaking away and all these
Oh
different
Yeah.
things.
yes. Oh
And
yes.
so you definitely have to write that down too.
Write that down. Yes.
Yes.
Oh Lord. You
Hmm.
speak a lot there. And one thing that came to mind when you were talking about that is in terms of the growing of the business and the passing on from generation to generation, is it a must or I don't know how to phrase this question, but as your company grows and as the person who is at the top, the CEO or whoever is at the top, maybe they die, as in the case of your dad, or maybe they're unable to run the company. Um, how do you decide? Is there a way? Is there something in law? Is there something that usually the company would put together at the beginning or so at some point to say, okay, well, Celicia has reached whatever point, and the next person to take over will be person X or person Y, or something of that sort. How do you go about deciding that?
um, I'll tell you, this was the only thing that was not so clearly documented, um,
Okay.
unfortunately. But
Because sometimes you have, well, I'm not saying it's in your case, but sometimes you have family members who go, we fighting, somebody die or somebody, and then, oh, this is my spot, this is my space, that kind of
yeah,
thing.
Yeah.
so that's why I said, unfortunately, that was one of the only things that was not
Mhm.
documented. But fortunately, um, this is where the legal aspect comes in, where you have a lawyer or some legal advice coming to play. In our case, we swiftly, I was almost thrown into the position. Um, I say thrown and I laugh because, of course, I accepted it because, of course, I understood my faith and I understood what had to happen. Um,
Okay.
so, of course, on a legal standpoint, you have things like if you have a board, the board has to do a resolution, and so that is if you are on a limited liability. And so we didn't talk about the makeup of the family business, whether we continue as a one sole proprietor who just have family members working with them, or if we have partnership, or if we have limited liability. We didn't touch that. Um, but each one has its different legal framework. So in our case, we have a limited liability company. So of course we have a board and et cetera, et cetera. So we had to do a resolution which made me now the CEO and the one who would do, the stuff of the CEO. Um, but to answer your question, I have to talk a little statistics too. Um, family businesses, what you find happening is that you'd have the person who is in leadership in that position for 20 plus years going. This is statistically what happens with family business, the person in leadership. And if you can just think of any family business that you know of, the person in leadership is generally there until.
Okay.
Um, Whereas in corporations, big corporations, you have a CEO who would just be in a position for probably just 5, 6 years, and then you find
Okay.
somebody new. So having that dynamic where you have that person at the helm for so long, you have those dynamics of one style leadership, limited growth, um, not changing with the times and all these different things here. But in a case like us where somebody died, what do you do to get somebody else in that position? Of course, it's best if it's legally written. It's clear, okay, what happens next. But in most family businesses, you don't find that. You find that the next in line assumes the position. And even if we were to take a page from our Eastern brothers, we're talking the Indian businesses and the Syrian businesses. Of course, it's the next in line. So whether it's a firstborn son, and obviously in those societies, it's the son that will take
Okay.
on the position. And then you also have a lot of women-owned businesses that is under the disguise of family-owned businesses. So you have those businesses where the matriarch runs things even in the home, and so that transcends over into the business. So you have then the next in line of matriarch in the family taking on the position. So sometimes it's not clear cut linear to summarize it. It's not clear cut. It is more of the next in line. But I would recommend that people, it's family businesses, that they put it in place and put it in place based on the person who can take the company forward, and not just about, well, is the firstborn or is my best child, or that one was there with me from the get-go, because that person may just be what you said, but they cannot take the company forward. And I think essentially in business, family-owned businesses, you want succession. You want that
Right.
from one generation. So
Continuity.
you want what Mr. Sabazan started to pass on to Junior Sabazan, and Junior Sabazan
Right.
passed it on to his Sabazan. Do you understand?
Legacy for the family.
Legacy. That is what's important. And so for legacy, you want to make sure the best person, the best candidate for the job,
Okay.
gets to perform the job.
All right. We have a question here from one of our viewers. They're asking, is a legal document required if a family member is loaning money to start a business but not part of the business? I don't know if you'll be able to answer that, but if you can.
I will answer it from my knowledge and my experience, definitely not as a legal advisor. I would say, you see, once we prepare a document that has witnesses, generally they can stand up in court or they can serve as some sort of a legal document. Of course, as I said, I'm not a legal body, but from experience, even in terms of thinking of a will, you can have homemade wills where you don't necessarily have to be in a lawyer's presence, you don't have to be in a court, you don't have to be in a lawyer's office. You can just write your will and have two persons who are not beneficiaries of the will sign as witnesses to the will. So in the
Okay.
same way, I would say legal documents can just be that you sign up, because we do bill of sales. I mean, much persons are familiar with just selling a vehicle. You write I, X, Y, Z agree to sell this vehicle in this condition for this value, and that stands as a legal document. So in the same way, I would say if you're not part of the business but you are loaning, you write up an agreement. I, Felicia Paul, agree to lend $5,000 to Hope Enterprise. This money is to be repaid in X and Y installments. And you have the person sign, you sign, and you have a witness. If,
Nice.
if you so desire to have it go into a legal office, of course, that is well in place. But I believe just writing up an agreement is sufficient.
Okay. All right. If anybody else has questions, if you're listening, we're talking about how to start up a family business. We're talking with Miss Alicia Paul of SB's International Trading. So if you have any questions on our topic for today, you can text us via WhatsApp 403-1031, or if you're listening on YouTube or Facebook, you can just type in your questions and we will see them. All right.
In terms of a legacy of your line of business, have you ever considered franchising or like getting it far and wider out of into the region or
Well, I'll tell you this, right? One of the things I'm conscious of every day, probably I shouldn't be too conscious of it, but I am, that I am a female in a male dominated industry. So I'm very conscious of that. Nevertheless, it doesn't sway me and what I hope to achieve for the people who work with me and for my father's legacy and then for my generations to come. Um, we already represent brands in the region. So that's something a lot of people don't know. So
Okay.
maybe I can take the opportunity not to market SC, but just to say
That's
that,
that's fine.
We won't charge you.
just to say that oftentimes people see SCs and they see the storefront in spring. Um, and they say, well, that's SCs. And that is just a tip of the iceberg. What we do, or the bulk of our business is that we distribute or put in local, we wholesale.
Okay.
So we sell to every major supermarket, mini mart, fuel station, garage.
Okay.
We sell to small shops. So that's the bulk of our business. So we import and we distribute. Some of the
Nice.
brands that we represent, we have regional representation for them. So we would be able to send goods to St. Vincent, Gone in the past, St. Lucia, Dominica, different Caribbean islands. So we have regional distribution rights for some of our brands. Um,
Okay.
my my goal, my biggest goal from going off, returning home from studying, and even sharing with my father, and maybe because I double majored in human resource management, I came back to Grenada with a big heart wanting to see our employment rate be better. And so I said, how can I contribute back to Grenada in that sense? And one of the things that I've always wanted to do, and I continue to pray and ask God and work and put pen to paper every year because it's not something that can be realized overnight. And I have not really shared it with much people. Only people who really know me know it. But I want to create, and I'm trying not to say it too, but primarily to have an arm of SC that can hire over 100 persons in one location and have several plans. And plans should give you an idea what I'm talking about. That will have an employment of over 100 at each plant. Um,
Okay.
Nice.
and that really is one of the things that drive me and I knew my father shared it and understood it and I would have his blessing. So even just on a local basis, this is one of the things that I want to do because when I'm very big on human capital. We have a lot of people in our island who are skilled in different ways. And apart from just the skill, they are so rich in what they can offer. Um, may not be with their hands or may not be with their brains or analytically, but they are so rich that when you put them in the right place, under the right
Okay.
circumstances,
All right.
you get
Yes.
so much from
Out of
them. And when I see that, I am always moved and motivated to work on this plan and see how it can become a reality um, for us. But more in the immediate, we are working on plans to broaden the amount of brands that we carry, that we sell to, and, and distribute more, get our brands
Okay.
more to more homes in Bermuda.
yes.
Right. Now we've been talking a lot about starting up the business and a lot of different aspects of starting up your business and so far, family business. What about are there any tips that you can give to the person out there who is possibly thinking about starting a family business? The idea might just be at the front of their mind. Are there any tips, any suggestions that you can share? Just somebody that maybe the layman on the street trying to get himself together and thinking about doing a family business. Any
Okay.
advice?
Um, yes, I do have advice there, because whatever family business you get involved in, this is going to be the reason you and your family wake up every day for the next couple of years in your life. You would not be able to escape from it. You may not even be able to get vacation from
True.
it.
Oh
So
gosh.
you must have a big passion, a big drive, um, for whatever the area that you decide to do. Um, I think sometimes a mistake we make is that we look for what to bring in money fast, or
Okay.
we make decisions just about how much money that could make.
Okay.
Um, and we don't think about what goes within us, what we're passionate about, what we really want to see and to do. And
Right.
that's my first advice. Select something that you are passionate about, so that when you wake up, people talk about, if you do what you love, you don't feel like you work or something
Right.
like that.
Right. I understand.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Listen, I love what I do, but I still feel like I work. But the point is this: if you have to wake up every day and you feel, oh God, I don't want to eat.
Right. Right. Right.
Imagine
Does
you're the
make
one
sense.
starting it. What you're going to leave for the persons
Right.
behind and the
Right.
members of your family, they would not be. So
You
be
have
first
a
what you and your family are passionate about. And if let's say your spouse or the other members are not yet passionate about it, try and continue to sell them on it. Um, and that will benefit you tremendously later on than having to always be pulling and tugging and that one saying, it's not me that want you to do this, it's you that want you to do this. If you get everyone's buy-in
mm-hmm.
early, that would be it. My second advice, which my banker friends would not like and may not agree with, I don't ever advise anyone to go into debt to start a business.
Okay.
Okay.
I know there are a lot of funding opportunities out there, and I know in some instances some people just don't have the finances, and I guess it becomes an absolute necessary to go and seek the financing. But be mindful if you do make that decision because you absolutely have to, and that's understandable, that it will come at an added strain.
All
If
right.
I can explain, you want to get into a juice making industry or some sort of beverage, and you have no financing whatsoever, and you go to the bank and you get a $50,000 loan. In the first five,
Exactly.
8 years of your business life, you would
Right.
not see the true potential or the true
Yes. Right.
finances of that business because what you'll be
Yes.
doing is paying back that institution.
Right. Right. Right.
So you become
Too tight. Yeah.
It's
I
like you're a
understand what you're
slave to the
saying. Yeah.
bank. It's
Yeah.
like you.
It's like
too
you
Yeah.
won't
soon
see your
because there
profit.
will come a time in every
Right.
business life where you have to seek financing, whether it's for growth or for
Right.
expansion or whatever. But imagine that you start from the first day with this loan, and by the time you're ready to grow now, you have to go back again.
Oh yeah.
And the next season of your business, you have to go back again. So for the entire lifespan or life cycle of your business, you are in debt.
So you would
It's
not see the
not
profit.
well
You
based on
might see a
how
little. Yeah.
yeah. So how good you manage the funds and all of that, you may see it, but you would always be in that situation. And I shouldn't speak so definite to say always, but I always suggest something people don't like to do, and I learned that from my dad, and I have no problem doing it. I went through it. Is that you stand people, however, with the thought is that we want to start large and want to be big from the
We-
get go, and that
Okay.
simple
You're
philosophy
breaking
of
up a little bit
thinking
there,
before you
Sally.
walk
You're breaking up a little
and
bit. You're
breaking
kind
up.
of off and on, off and on.
Oh,
Yes.
I'm sorry. Is it
So
better
didn't
now?
quite hear what you just said a while ago.
I said it's okay to creep before you walk,
Yeah.
Okay,
and
right.
that we should not be too excited to just start grand and to start big. I
Okay.
believe it is this is good because you learn to appreciate humble beginnings and a little struggle so that
Right,
later on, if you have to struggle, you don't feel like, oh my God, what's happening here?
right, right,
But
right.
if you start small and you grow, then you can see your business grow, you can see your profits grow, you can see your revenues grow, and you have a greater appreciation for it rather than you start grand, and that grand just mean a grand debt and a grand repayment to the bank. So my second recommendation or advice would be to start small and if you can, by all means, avoid going into debt to start your business.
Okay. Sounds like some good advice.
Yeah.
As a matter of fact, I
Yeah.
really don't like debt. I don't think anybody likes debt. I don't
Nobody likes that, but so some
think
people,
anybody likes
if
debt, but
you really want to start your business and you don't have the savings or you don't have a family member who can inject, and even in that case, you still have to repay. But if you can't, then I guess you understand you have to do the financial from an institution. And of course, that way you want to shop around. And shop around meaning that you get those with the best repayment terms and the lowest interest rates and so forth. And you don't want to, sometimes you don't want to be in debt for long, so we take the short term ones, but then our repayments are high, and then you're
right.
struggling when the month ends because you have staff to
You have
pay
to meet it.
and you have to still meet that bank. So consider all of these things before you get yourself into deep and consider starting small and creep before you walk. You know, locally we say one day, I'm not too good on the
One
future.
day, Congo take.
In
And
office,
where horse reach, donkey go reach too.
my brother says that one. The one I say is one cocoa fills up the pot.
Right, right.
Right.
One
So
Congo.
just take it step by step and you will get there. Because as I said, in our case, we did not start anywhere where we are now. Our level of revenues is nowhere close to where we started. We started with just my father, my cousin who now migrated to the US, Gary Paul, and me in some cases. And it was just that for a very long time. And then we added on one member, and then we added on another member. And it was just small. And look at where we are now. So humble
Right.
beginnings and growth is important. And then you get a great appreciation for where your business has been and where you are now and where you can go when you see how you grow. Yeah.
Right.
Yes. So that means that you have to be doing a lot of savings with whatever you get. You have to save and be very, very strict with it.
Yes. So I know that Hope has a session that they do on financing and family, well, not family, but finance and money
Money
management.
talk.
Yeah.
Money talk, and
Yes.
I've tuned in once or twice, and I know it's good stuff. But um, I know, of course, you must have covered, as an individual, you pay yourself first, and you pay well, not first, of course, you give God tithes. But I'm talking about you pay yourself a portion, so you get to save, and that's one of the mistakes, if I can add, with family businesses too, or maybe just family or our side of the world with family is our parents and their foreparents did not teach and we don't pass it on money management. And
Right.
so you have, and this is something I have a challenge with. You have in Grenada people like, I don't say, they like to count your money for you, you know. And
Like they know how much exactly you're
Yes.
making.
They're
right.
counting.
And I look at myself and I always say to people, I am no different from anyone else. The only thing that makes me different is my father's decision and my decision.
All
I
right.
am no way different. I was not given a gold spoon. My father wasn't given a gold spoon. He's from Redmond up in Pipe Track, up in Pedmota. If you anybody know that, Redmond, Ducky Ducky. So there was no gold spoon. It was just a matter of decisions and money decisions that you make and you teach your children money decisions. I teach my daughter, you go to school, I gave you no money to buy pen or cool in the school, in the tuck shop. You come home, I bought you pen or cool, a packet, it's in the fridge. When you get home, you get it. We teach our children money, money management, how to handle money. And the money is not just about spending, getting and spending, getting and spending. And at the same time, you're not trying to amass wealth for just yourself. and for no reason and for luxury, but you want to be able to be a good steward, which is a word that is used a lot in money talk, a good steward of whatever you get and make wise decisions for you and for future generations.
Oh, yes. Something that came to mind as you were talking there, I know we kind of out of time, but even as myself and Adonna was discussing this this team for today, the how to start up a family business. We had a little discussion at some point. We were talking about, you have some people that they can't really see their way, but because they have their little cottage industry and all how they do, they eat in the profit. So they might make a little, they make a little, they're selling tamarind ball or whatever they're selling. And by the end of the day, you see them in KFC and they spend out half of the money on KFC or something. So something that they should not be, it has a lot to do with management.
It's the
People
same thing I'm
just,
saying about,
you know,
yes, the
some people,
decisions that we make. It's the decisions that we
right.
make.
That's it. That's it. All right. So our time is actually up for today. So before we end, I don't know if Adonna, if you have any last words. Alicia, if you have any last words, you can share it with us just before we end today.
I would just like to say thanks to Salisha. It has really opened up my mind, thinking about business because we have tried businesses, my husband and I, for a while, early in our marriage. And a lot of things that you said has really changed my perspective as to starting a family business and what is really involved. So I just want to thank you so much. And
You
I just
are
hope that our viewers have the same point of view as I do.
you are absolutely welcome. Again, Linnell, thank you for inviting me. Of course, I was also apprehensive at first, but it's my pleasure. My father says, boss lady, when you get the mic, you can't done. Because I like to share my knowledge and experience when it comes to these people. I am young. I tell my workers that all the time. I am young. I'm not no old shoes. I have not been around for donkey years. I am young and I can identify with young people.
Right.
So anything that I can share to help our generation
That's
um,
right.
be their best and their family's best and their children can look up to them and in whatever way I will more than be happy to share and to do whatever I can. We have to take the responsibility that was given to us and the mandate that was given to us and carry it on and leave good legacies behind, whether it is business, whether it's spiritual, whether it's family, whatever way, and leave those mandates, those legacies, sorry, behind. Anyone wishing to talk to me more about family business, you are more than welcome to do so. Again, I'm not the expert, but I have a little experience under my belt.
It's
So I wish everyone listening the very best in their business endeavors. I must, I must confess, I say this to my accountant. Big up to Donrick. I'm sure he's listening. I say to him all the time, Donrick, people don't always understand what business is all about and what they want to get themselves involved in. Sometimes it is sugar coated or painted as a bell of roses that it's just about buy and sell and make money and have. And the sacrifices, and I'm going to say sacrifices again, and the sacrifices that come with being in business and doing business in Grenada is also challenging. It has its own spells of things, but it is not impossible. It is doable. You pray and God gives guidance, and um, it's not a all impossible task. It can be done. So I want to encourage anyone who wants to do it, just take your time, pray about it, write a vision, write a plan, strategize. Even if you have already started family business and you're somewhere in between and you're stuck, listen, you strategize with the members of the family, the key players, and set the course and set the path and be realistic about things. We living in a different era. COVID is not or has affected business or how we do business. So put pen to paper, pray, write. Don't forget praying. Don't forget praying.
Not
So
at all.
Seeking God for direction, seeking God for direction, and He does all the time show us and provide. And even if the finances are not there, and sometimes we don't understand where it's going to come from, He provides or He make ways.
yeah.
So that's my encouragement to anyone. Be blessed, and thank you again to the Hope family, to Linnell, Donna, everyone. Thank you.
All
Most welcome.
right.
Nice
It was
having you.
really nice having you, Sally. And I don't think this will be the last time you'll be on. So thank you again for joining us. It was a pleasure. It was an honor. You shared a wealth of information, and we are grateful for your time that you spent with us today. So have a great afternoon and blessings to all those of you still listening out there. Keep it locked to 103.1 FM. We have good music to come. All right.
Thank you,
All right.
Felicia. God
Thank
bless
you.
you.
Blessings.
God
Bye
bless
Blessings.
you.
bye. Okay.
Bye.
Bye.
Hey, you can't touch me. Lucifer, you can't touch me. Furthermore, take your filthy hands off me, family. The blood of Jesus over your family. Plead the blood over your family. This is what to pray and say in the morning. The blood of Jesus over your family. Plead the blood over your family. This is what to pray and say in the morning.